Hello viewers, Super GT here. We finally return back to the centre of all chaos in the Gran Turismo universe, and that is Monza. It's been a while since this circuit has come up in the daily races, but finally it has done, and it's turned into pretty much a Bugatti Veyron Cup. Pretty much every car here is the Veyron, apart from I think there is one Lambo, and there it is in 8th place. Okay, so Monza. We all know how tricky this circuit is in terms of not dying. Turn 1, big braking zone, big chaos zone. It's not too difficult thinking of names for videos around Monza. Anything to do with mayhem or madness, anything along those lines usually works, but then again I've used those titles so often in the past that I don't want to use them again. But alas, we get through turn 1 actually alright. No one actually really severely died there. So we continue and come round to the second chicane instead. So it might just be a mere case of the chaos being postponed for the second corner. But actually no, people getting through here okay. And that does often happen when you have the rolling starts. This is going to be the difficult thing here. Like I got a second penalty there. And it's that second chicane. It's my kryptonite really. Just trying to really maximise it, but at the same time it's very easy to go beyond the track limit and get yourself a penalty. Now this race is an example of resilience and not giving up. Just going to try to move to the right hand side there. We went 3 abreast temporarily. So we started 10th, I'm going to move down to 12th, 13th, 14th, and back to 13th again, and back to 14th again. As we go side by side with the Peugeot through a Ascari, you don't often see that. Back to 13th. Okay, we went down to 14th temporarily. So things were really going pretty badly at that point. But we're going to try and continue here. As the Veyron, as you can probably guess, has a really good straight line speed. Monza, the temple of speed. Plenty of straights. You do want a car with good straight line speed, of course. That is only normal. Up ahead we have the Audi TT. Actually, we're not quite all Veyrons then. We have a Huracan, we have a TT, but it is 95% Veyrons probably. Into turn 1. Now this is where things really kick off, of course, and this is why I'm not giving up, because around Monza there's such a high chance of something going wrong for someone or everyone. So you might as well always stick it out and bring it home all the way to the end. It's only a 4-lap race, not much time to get things done. But in Monza, everything's escalated to another level. As we come into the second chicane, you see here it's kicking off, and it's exactly what we mean. And we're going to gain 2 positions out of all of that madness. I was trying to be patient, judge exactly which way to go, and then we had a helping hand from behind, and we moved through up 2 positions, up to 10th again, back to where we started. So we were 14th a lap ago. It just shows you, don't give up, stay in there. We've gone back up 4 positions. We're going to gain another one here from the Lamborghini who drifted wide on the exit of Lesmo 2, and potentially we get another move done here up into the Ascari chicane. Is he going to defend? Yes, so we'll just stick behind for now. Sometimes better just to stick behind and both take a nice racing line and do the racing a little bit later. So I'm going to tuck in behind the sister Veyron. Basically every car in this race is a sister Veyron, and come down the back straight and skip forward to turn 1. It's just going to be a nice late move on the brakes up the inside, and that's pretty much a textbook move for turn 1. We move up into 8th, up behind the Russian player now. We've got some good momentum out of that turn, so we can potentially go for another move into the second chicane. And as we come round here, got the slipstream, pull out to the left hand side. No longer in the slipstream, but we can definitely get this move done slightly alongside. He wants to go for the move as well, but we're going to go up the inside and demote him down 1 position. Look at that, just drifting a little bit too far across the apex, over the curb. Is that going to be a penalty? It isn't, weirdly enough. I thought that was going to be a penalty. Sometimes you escape it, sometimes you don't. So up into 7th. We've gained 7 from where we eventually went down to on lap 1. But continuing here, there will be further examples of some absolute mayhem later in this race. There was a Greek guy in the last race causing utter chaos. and it was actually really rather entertaining to watch. But probably not best to be part of it, but it's always good to watch it from the outside. As we move up into 6th place, the unfortunate thing here, we're not quite in the slipstream with the cars ahead, so we're going to lose a couple of tenths down this straight, and in fact we're going to have to go defensive from the Spaniard behind. He's going to go to the left hand side, there he goes, down towards Parabolica, braking just before the 100 board, and we're into the corner. Very heavy, clunky car this though, in Group 4. Good in a straight line, very slow on the brakes, very slow in the corners, but overall probably the best car for this circuit. Okay, on to lap 4 in 6th place. Now you can see here it's nearly a 3-second gap to the guys ahead, but as I've said many times already, you should never give up. As we pan forward, you can just see it's already kicking off. With a big group of 4 like that, it's never going to be too long before one of them sends another one to the shadow realm. We go through him, he gets himself a 4-second penalty, up into 5th, guy in 3rd with a penalty as well. So it just shows you, never give up, because people are going to obliterate each other. You just know it's going to happen. And coming through chicane number 2, looking for the inside, doesn't quite open up for me, so I have to settle in behind and settle for 5th at this point. We do have a penalty just up ahead, so I think this has been a solid recovery. 2nd place well in sight at this point. Not that we're probably going to get to 2nd, but from going from 14th back to a near podium, I'm going to just nudge that guy a little bit wide. That was not a good move, and I'm going to have to back off of him just to make sure I don't overtake him. It's a bit bad, I think, to nudge someone wide and then just go past like that, so we're going to settle in behind. Maybe look for a move at Parabolica. He covers the inside on the exit and there's no way through, so it's going to be a 5th, which isn't too bad actually, given that we went back down to 14th, started 10th and crossed the line. Almost got him on the line, but not quite. Okay, so that was the first race, and it was a good example of resilience, not giving up, and actually having a decent result. But the next few races didn't quite go so well. As you can see here, a couple of examples of mayhem kicking off at turn 1. It's actually not too bad there, but it is always a hot spot for lots of trouble, should we say. So the first chicane is always about the contact. There's always a lot of contact going into that first chicane. The second one, also a lot of contact, but also a lot of penalties getting dished out on this second chicane. Or maybe that's just me not driving the chicane properly. As we go through, again, it's all actually okay. We'll get through just about. Later on in this race, on lap number 4 now, this is where things get a little bit annoying, because I'm going to go side by side with the Veyron here, 2x2, and then the Jaguar was just going to make it a 3 abreast out of nowhere. And I didn't really realise it. I tried to give this Veyron space, but then I didn't realise there was another Jaguar suddenly alongside. So that ended up in a rage quit as I got teleported back in time. Next race, up the inside of the Aston Martin, this is to lap 1 here. Brake marker boards flying all over the place as we come through the chicane. Go side by side with the Aston, you can see that on the radar. And then a couple of cars up ahead having a bit of argy-bargy. 1 second penalty being dished out to the Russian. I'm going to gain a few positions here. Go up the inside through Curva Grande and hurtle towards the infamous second chicane, looking for our breaking point, which is this tarmac section on the right hand side next to the grass. Coming in, there's plenty of contact as per. A Peugeot recovering. I'm going to gain another place there up into 9th and just try to force this Dutch guy narrow. I think there's actually a bit of a touch, if anything, through Lesmo 1. We're okay, we're safe. Guy behind very close. I'm going to cover him off just to make sure he doesn't go for that move. A couple of penalties. In fact, an Irish guy up there with a 6-second penalty for good measure. We're going to cross the penalty zone and he serves it. He's going to go way back in time. 6-second penalties. We established that those are the worst things. One of the worst things. One of the most painful things a human can experience. So that's unfortunate for him. Small gap here. Going to go half on the grass. Oh my god. Up into 5th. And things going well here. Up into turn 1, just look at the radar here. This guy, I don't know what he's doing. Well, I mean, you don't go for lunges on the second part of that corner. But unfortunately, this seemed to trigger something with my handbrake. For some weird reason, my handbrake kept going on, so I had no speed on the straights. You can see this, I'm just getting left for dead. Don't know what it was. The Frenchman murdered my handbrake. And here it kind of fully broke. And I had to pull it to a stop. and I couldn't really seem to fix it. So I got stuck here for eternity, and because I'm such a bad driver, we got disqualified for ignoring penalties, even though I couldn't actually move. Anyway, we move on to our Super GT account. I got a 56.0, pretty decent time at the time of doing it, with our Crunch livery, which is probably the sound that's going to be made at turn 1. So from pole position, this is very much a different race. You can escape a lot of the trouble, but such is the slipstream, as we all know in Gran Turismo, that it's very difficult to pull away from someone who is even a tiny bit slower, but they can always keep up with you in the slipstream. So it's going to be really hard to pull away, and that proved to be the case, as this Peugeot would not leave me alone. The Peugeot is really good. If you want an alternative car to the Veyron for this race, then definitely give the Peugeot a try. It's one of those cars that understeers horrifically on power, but it is a good car for this circuit. Into turn 1, going defensive, and then the Peugeot on the outside can't really do that move. So we just keep the lead for now, and just pull away coming out of the corners, but then such is the slipstream again that he manages to get closer. As we come through Curva Grande, that gap is coming down once again. Just look in the radar, you see him just creeping into the shot on the bottom right of the screen. And as soon as you start seeing that, I'm going to go to the left-hand side, fully defensive. He has to go to the right, and keeping one eye on the radar, one eye on the track. And we've done just enough, keeping it within the track limits, hopefully. You normally find out about here if you've got a penalty, and we haven't, which is good. But on lap 4 here, under pressure to bring home a victory, up through Lesmo 1 into Lesmo 2, and just using the curb on the inside in 3rd gear, getting on the power nicely. We'll take a look behind here. Actually, luckily for me, got a penalty. I'm not sure exactly what for, probably for the second chicane, but that gives me a clear run to get the victory. So finally we get a win around here, but the chaos wasn't over. That was a nice clean race actually, and we move to the next race. I'm going to try a different car, the Lamborghini Huracan. Usually a decent car in a straight line, but such is the might of the Veyron that it's really difficult to compete with it if you're not in the Veyron yourself, unless maybe you're in the Peugeot. But we're going to go for one more race here and see how this one develops. Starting once again from the back, just to really showcase the absolute magnitude of mayhem here at Monza, as is always usually the case. No, always is the case. Okay, up towards turn 1, up behind a Supra, quite interestingly, looking for our braking point, 150 board. There it is, braking just before, and he broke well before, up the inside quite easily. And Supra gets dispatched, that's NSX gets spun around, but to be fair, he's probably going to have a really hard time in that car anyway. So his race cut short, Hulky Max with a 2-second penalty, and there's going to be some horrific examples of penalties in this race. This is where I told you about the Greek guy who's just going absolutely mental. And we're going to see that a little bit later on in this one, as we come down towards chicane number 2. Drinking game for this one would be, I suppose, penalty, chicane, chaos, and if you've been playing along, you'd be absolutely wasted by now. Guy recovering, going very slow up the inside into Lesmo 1, going up into 11th place. We've gained 3 already, and a lot of the time, it's just really, it's honestly a case of just not making any mistakes, not getting any penalties, not going wide of course, and just taking advantage of everyone else's misery. And if you can do that, if you can keep it nice and solid on the track, then you're probably going to do quite well around here, even starting at the back. Okay, so up into 10th now, up towards the sky. We've got a nice big gap up ahead, and here's the Greek guy we've been speaking of. Actually, his driving doesn't go downhill until towards the end of the race. I don't know what it was, but it's like a switch got flicked, and he was a changed man from then on. Crossing the line, we're going to whip it forward here because there's not too much going on down the back straight through Parabolica and out the main straight. You kind of get the gist. Everyone's in the slipstream, and they're very long straights. This guy rejoins, bam, wipes out the Norwegian. He's dead, and we're going to gain out of that. 2-second penalty there. So more gaining to be done here as we come around through Curva Grande once again, tucking into that slipstream, of course. And I'm really relying on the slipstream. In this Huracan, it's not quite as good as the Veyron in the straight line. But we are going to go for the inside. And unfortunately here, I think this is what might trigger. This is where the switch gets flicked. I just tap him wide. That's completely my fault. But if anything, he didn't lose too much time, thankfully. But we continue in position, so it's not too much of a worry. As we then come into Lesmo 1 in order, the same order that we were with a half a second penalty, annoyingly, this would seem to, again, be my weakness, my absolute weakness around this track. It's just really trying to judge that second chicane on the limit. It's really difficult. As we come round to the penalty zone, in company here with someone else, and we're going to drop back, down in 8th, a good second or more away from 7th now. But as we skip it forward, this is where things get a little bit more interesting. I'm going to try to take this properly now. You have to be right on the edge. And you know, if you don't take that corner quickly, you do lose a lot of time. But then I suppose you lose more time by taking the penalty, don't you? Not getting that balance right for sure. That's something I need to work on. But this now is where things get interesting. It's kind of like the first race. If you remember that one, I was sitting in 6th place, I think it was, or 7th or something. And then there's a big group up ahead, and they started battering the crap out of each other. And that is pretty much exactly what's going to happen here. So it once again just shows you, don't give up around Monza, because this race will always go down to the wire. If people are in a group, it's just not going to end well. It's just not going to end well. And if you have a look at the group up ahead, it seems as though people are getting absolutely obliterated. We have a Russian off the circuit. We have a Spaniard with a 5-second penalty. If you have a look at the group up ahead, they're again still battering the crap out of each other into Curva Grande. And we're going to take a look at this actually in closer detail, because this 5-second penalty was an absolute sick joke, I must say, as we come into turn 1. Look at this though, this was absolutely hilarious. This guy was not happy. He went for the savage attack. John Cena was there. He was ready and primed for the revenge hit. But unfortunately, he got teleported back in time. So the game actually came to the rescue of this Greek guy here. So this is how it all played out. As he comes out in 4th place here, and just has obviously a bit of a run-in with this Russian. Not quite sure why, but turning right when he should be going straight. And then here just forgets to brake, nudges him wide. And that's not all. That's not all, folks. He just comes up the inside, completely over the curb. And yes, you guessed it, the Spaniard gets a 5-second penalty for that. And then he wipes out this Italian guy who's on home turf. So absolutely filthy stuff. Look at this. This is how the game sort of decides that this guy gets a 5-second penalty. So both times here, the Greek guy punts the Russian, and then just before the Russian goes off, there's contact there with the Spaniard, and the game thinks that is the Spaniard's fault. And again there, obviously 100% the Greek guy's fault. But yeah, frustration. This guy is probably raging big time. But anyway, there's your little mini episode of worst penalties in the world. Across the line eventually in 6th place, naturally, as we always tend to do. But there we go, another video around Monza, and it never fails to disappoint in terms of absolute anarchy. I do hope you enjoyed it as always. Let me know your thoughts. And just a big thank you for the support on the channel as always. Thank you so much everyone. Take care, and I shall see you next time. Goodbye.